Really, Ryan? I expected you to be like, did he use a shoe to kill him?
I wanted to, but I thought that was low-hanging fruit.
I was gonna do the same thing and thought the same thing.
Welcome to Tairimo Boys podcast. I'm your host Cody. With me in second chair is the boy who owns a Swedish-made penis enlargement pump. It's Jeremy.
I don't know what you're talking about. It's not mine.
I have your warranty card right here, Jeremy.
I still don't know what you're talking about. Definitely it's not mine.
With me in third chair is the boy whose middle name happens to be Dangers. It's Ryan.
Yeah, baby.
Oh, behave. Today we're going back in the past to go to the future with Austin Powers, the first movie, International Man of Mystery. This movie came out in 1997, and back in 1997, that was a completely different year than it is today. This movie was a cultural phenomena.
Well said.
So back before I'm not gonna say back before the internet, but back before the internet really took off, culture kind of moved a lot slower, and the Austin Powers series, it caught on, and for like years, like everyone was quoting it. You couldn't go anywhere without meeting someone who saw all these Austin Powers movies. But nowadays, since everything moves so fast, if Austin Powers came out, people would just talk about it and quote it for like a week or a month and move on to the next thing. So, Jeremy, what are your first thoughts on this movie?
This is one of the first movies that we watched that I actually remember seeing, and I remember absolutely loving it, and holds up to this day.
Agree. Ryan?
Might be my favorite comedy of all time, if not close.
So, a little bit of backstory. Me and Ryan, we used to watch this movie all the time back in the day, and we even saw the third Austin Powers movie together in theaters.
Yeah.
So,
Oh,
so we've got kind of a history with this. As for my first thoughts, this is a classical parody movie. Whenever you think parody movies, you think movies like Spaceballs. Would you consider Blazing Saddles to be a parody movie?
of the West, yeah. Or
Yeah,
Westerns, I mean.
yeah, I think it's more westerns overall. Spaceballs would just be Star Wars in general.
Yeah.
But whenever it comes to parodying the James Bond series, Austin Powers the go-to. So, for anyone who's unfamiliar with the Austin Powers franchise, Mike Myers, who, if you don't know him, he's the voice of Shrek. And it's sad that we live in a world where people might not know who Mike Myers is.
Sad indeed.
I was thinking that, I was like, what the hell is he doing nowadays?
Isn't he the bad guy from the Halloween movies?
Ryan, you ruined an eventual joke I had written down.
What was it, just out of curiosity?
I was going to do the whole, not to be confused with the villain of the Halloween movies. Anyways, really the only thing he's doing nowadays is like Shrek 5. And they really can't do an Austin Powers 4 because like Mini Me's dead.
Are they doing a Shrek 5?
Yeah. Our time together isn't ogre, Ryan. Anyways, a lot of Mike Myers' characters, they started as like SNL, Saturday Night Live skit characters. Austin Powers was like supposed to be the lead singer in this fake band called Ming T. Just like Wayne's World, that was an SNL skit. Well, that ended up turning into this full movie where Austin Powers movie starts in the 1960s. He's fighting a Blofeld parody named Doctor Evil. Doctor Evil ends up freezing himself for 30 years. So Austin also freezes himself. So Austin wakes up. He's really 1960s-y, and he has to adjust to the modern year of the 1990s. While he just goes on his zany adventure to stop Doctor Evil. Did I mention this is a James Bond parody?
Once or twice.
So, you boys ready for some fun facts?
Always.
All right. So,
Yeah.
in our GoldenEye review, if you remember, one of the big things we constantly hit on was how serious the Daniel Craig movies are. Well, the reason the Daniel Craig movies are so serious is because of Austin Powers. Daniel Craig's even gone on the record that Mike Myers kind of fucked the whole series because they couldn't do the goofy stuff anymore. But, I mean, really, was Pierce Brosnan Bond all that goofy?
And I could definitely not imagine a Daniel Craig movie.
I mean, even so, it took the piss out of a lot of the older, especially Roger Moore type trope. So they decided to go with a more extremely serious and dark tone, nut torture scenes with Daniel Craig's like current movies. Now, I've got a question for you boys. Jeremy, do you think this movie could be made in the current era?
No, absolutely not. Canceled immediately.
Ryan?
Probably not.
Yeah, I was thinking that like we're just watching the whole thing because Austin's kind of got a struggle snuggly vibe coming off of him.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was also a almost struggly snuggly scene.
He was being playful, Jeremy.
Giggity.
Quagmire can't even be struggle snuggly nowadays.
What a world we live in.
Even so, it's a hilarious movie, and one of the reasons I love it is, especially early on in the movie, it feels like they're just like machine gunning jokes, just like back to back to back to back jokes. So that leads us into our next question. Jeremy, what was your favorite scene?
Favorite scene? When Austin Powers steamrolls that guard in Dr. Evil's base. That was my favorite scene.
That is a pretty good scene.
It was so intense and it was so funny at the same time. Like that was the hardest I laughed during the movie was that scene.
It's just supposed to be completely ridiculous. So you got this slow steamroller just driving by, and a guard trying to have him stop by standing in front of it. There's just so much time for either the guard to move or Austin to just swerve, but neither of them do, and the guy gets run over. What about you, Ryan?
I want to go with two. I want to go with the steamroller scene because I remember that the first time I watched it a long time ago when it first came out. And then also the I can't quote it word for word, but it's the I'm going to place them in an easily escapable situation scene.
The
That
unnecessary.
always bothered me about what is it, Goldfinger? And the lasers going up to his nuts very slowly.
We've talked about that before, but the thing it's the unnecessarily slow dipping mechanism.
Yeah.
Just gotta
What made
let.
that scene better is the fact that they didn't have sharks with freaking laser beams. They had mutated sea bass.
Well, Jeremy, they were ill-tempered sea bass because sharks are on the endangered species list. It just parodies like all these like corny, like death traps the villains always put Bond in. But I mean, the thing about the Goldfinger laser scene, and by the way, in the Goldfinger novel, it was a saw blade. They just went with laser in the movie because lasers were the newest thing. Bond had no way of escaping that. If he would have talked Goldfinger into stopping, then Bond would have been freaking dead. Gotten hit with a bukkake of laser. As for my favorite scene is always the bathroom scene in the casino, where Austin and this Texas guy are like in two completely different stalls, and the back goes up behind the toilet, and you get the Lucky Charms guy strangling Austin before Austin quickly gets the upper hand and starts drowning him in the toilet in order to interrogate him. If Austin going, who does number two work for? The Texas guy has like just thinks he's training, taking a crap. So he's just freaking hilarious.
Yeah, I lost my shit at that scene too.
So I have to ask, what do you boys think about the scene where Austin gets the little vehicle stuck between the two walls?
Relatable.
Yeah. I think I've done that before.
You just reverse, Ryan.
It's a long way to reverse. They didn't have rear camera at that time.
So it is time for a brand new segment called. I haven't came up for a name for this segment yet. Cody's Reading Rainbow.
Is there a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow?
A pot of gold of comedy. So for anyone who doesn't know, there was kind of a novelization of the first Austin Powers movie where some guy wrote some of the scenes into a book. It's actually pretty hilarious from what I've heard. And right here, I've got a snippet of whenever Austin gets the vehicle stuck between the two walls. So I'm going to read that aloud. I've gone the wrong shagging way, Austin thought to himself groovily. Austin stopped the car and attempted to turn around. However, Dr. Evil's dastardly corridor walls were too close together to make a U-turn. Austin had to think fast. He turned a little one way, then reversed a little, then turned, then reversed. on for minutes until the cart he was driving was perfectly wedged perpendicularly between the unsexy walls. Yeah, baby, said nobody, since this was not good. So, hope everyone enjoyed that. Don't forget to join the Tairimo Boys book club. But yeah, there is always something happening in this movie. And just like all the parodying of James Bond, it's hilarious. Like you have like I said earlier, Doctor Evil's a parody of Blofeld from the James Bond series, and you've got a Odd Job parody named Random Task who throws a shoe instead of a hat.
Who throws a freaking shoe?
Here's your little fun fact on the guy who played Random Task. He was arrested for apparently torturing a woman, and I think he got like 19 years in jail for that. And he ended up murdering his cellmate, so now he's serving a life prison. So, Ryan, go ahead and make a joke.
Honestly, I'm bone dry.
Really, Ryan? I expected you to be like, did he use a shoe to kill him?
I wanted to, but I thought that was low hanging fruit.
I was gonna do the same thing and thought the same thing.
It's fine to take the low hanging fruit sometimes.
Yeah, I guess so.
So this movie, it's about an hour and 20 minutes long, so it's not going to overstay its welcome. It gets like straight to the point, and you're like I said, you're laughing pretty much every minute. Jeremy, do you know how much the budget was for this movie?
I do not.
What about you, Ryan?
Was it $1 million?
It certainly wasn't $100 million.
That was my next answer.
It was actually $16.5 million.
Put your pinky to your mouth that you said that.
Indeed, I did. And just as a reminder, an episode of She-Hulk was like 25 million.
That's a disgusting fact.
That's a not so fun fact for you. The movie ended up making $67.7 million. So it made its budget back and a lot more. And really, where Austin Powers took off was whenever VHS and DVD sales came in, because word of mouth really got it. If they were to make like Austin Powers nowadays for that budget and only made 67 million, they'd probably have a heart attack that they made so little. So I want to remind the Hollywood executives, we don't need these 100, $200 million Flash and Indiana Jones movies. You could make these Willy's Wonderlands and Austin Powerses for only a few million, and everyone will enjoy it. You don't need to be making billions.
To go along with that, how we don't need a giant budget. I believe Godzilla Minus One is also doing well, and it was on a $15 million budget, if I'm not mistaken. So, even this day and age, we don't need giant budgets.
Yeah, just stop dealing with these Film Actors Guild or Screen Actors Guild or whatever it is. Just give us like cheap movies. We'll enjoy them. Anyways, to wash that not so fun fact out with a actual fun fact, did you boys know that Jim Carrey was originally planned to be Dr. Evil?
Dr. Evil? Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yep. They wanted Jim Carrey, but he was busy making Liar Liar, so that never happened. Instead, Michael Myers got to play a second character. And of course, as we mentioned earlier, there was multiple Austin Powers movies because the first one did so well. Of course, first one's International Man of Mystery. Second one's The Spy Who Shagged Me. The third one is Goldmember. All of them are really good movies. Maybe one of these days we'll review the other two. But we've got such a backlog right now. Anything you boys want to hit on before we get into final thoughts?
Yes. Did you guys catch the goof when Vanessa and Austin Powers were tracking down Dr. Evil in Vegas and they saw his limo? And Austin Powers said he thought that was Dr. Evil's limo because he never forgets a pussy cat, even though he never saw a naked Mr. Bigglesworth.
Well, he would have remembered the Persian version. He's got magic powers. It's his mojo, Jeremy. It's a comedy movie, Jeremy. You're thinking too much into it.
Hey, that's the only thing I saw. I was just like, hey, he hasn't seen naked Mr. Bigglesworth.
Yeah. So originally he's got like a Persian cat, just like Blofeld did in the Bond movies, and like after it gets like defrozen, Will Ferrell's character didn't know that how the defreezing process worked on cats, and he left with this bald Sphinx cat instead.
Damn, Jeremy, that was a good catch.
Thank you.
Jeremy gets the gold star today for nitpicking.
No, now you're just making me feel bad. How can I nitpick one of the greatest movies of all time?
Very easily, apparently.
I'm just that kind of guy, I guess.
Well, if you want to nitpick, then let's talk. So the scene where Austin's naked and stuff is blocking out his junk, that was not meant to be seen in HD.
No, sir, that was not.
But you could see Mike Myers is wearing like a sports cup over his junk. But back in the day when we had VHS and DVD quality, you wouldn't be able to make that out. All right, Jeremy, final thoughts.
One of my favorite movies of all time. Easily one of the most quotable movies of all time. If you haven't seen it, watch it. Actually, if you haven't seen it, shame on you. I say that often, but really, shame on you for not seeing this one.
Ryan, final thoughts.
Go back in time and watch this in a theater. How do you go back in time in the second one? Spoilers.
It was the portal where you jump and you get frozen, and you spin around and go into it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, do that, folks. Actually, don't do that.
Yeah, you'll with the past. But yeah, like I said, this is like one of the greatest comedies of all time. You'll be laughing nonstop. If you love the Bond series, you'll definitely love Austin Powers. And of course, Austin Powers has left its permanent mark on audiences in the James Bond series. So you won't go wrong watching this movie.
Wait. We didn't do Boys in Action. Gentlemen, Ryan, where do you die?
Can I say the penis pump? Yeah, let's go with that.
See, Cody, I told you the receipt didn't belong to me.
Which penis pump? When you first bought it, or
Yeah, when I first bought it, use that
pumped,
immediately.
gave yourself a heart attack or some heart problem?
Cody, where do you die?
Oh, where do I die? Oh, in the third movie, there's a flashback where Austin is like a baby and the car blows up. I would have been the baby in the car. I would have died instead of survived.
Okay, well, you guys actually saw me die in the movie. I was one of the guards, and I died by the fembots. I was there.
Well, at least you didn't get crushed by a steamroller. I thought about doing Boys in Action. I was like, oh no, this is a comedy movie. Whatever. It worked out. So, Jeremy, on a scale of Spaceballs to Meet the Spartans, where would you rank this?
Ooh, Spaceballs.
Ryan?
Baseballs.
Getting a Spaceballs from me too. Well, me three. All right, everyone. Thank you for listening to another episode of Tairimo Boys podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment. Tell us you love the Austin Powers series. And don't forget to ring that motherfucking bell. Stay tuned for more episodes and do behave.